Good evening, learners. So we were discussing about the operation and maintenance of the course power distribution sector. Before starting this lecture, I would like to give one more information. You people are not having this particular block 2 of this course, but this has been printed and it will take some time to reach to you. In the meantime, we have uploaded this block in PDF format at IGNOU website. As you know, IGNOU website is www.ignou.ac.in. At the home page of this website, you will find a window schools, in the name of schools. You go to the schools. In schools, when you click, then you will find a list of schools. One of the school is their School of Engineering and Technology. So you click on this school. In this school you will find a window courses. So just click on courses. You will find the list of courses that School of Engineering and Technology offer, and out of various courses you will find there this advanced certificate in power distribution management. In this window you will find the course material link will be there, and there this has been uploaded in PDF format. So in the meantime, till you get this block by post, you can just download the whole of the block from their from the website and go through this. So before coming to next video conferencing session, that is tomorrow, you can have a glimpse on that block. So this is one information. Another one request I have to the regional centers and our video conferencing centers, that I would like to request that you please send the attendance of the participants through email or fax. Thank you. Now I will request Madam Anjali Chandra to continue the session.
Welcome back, friends, and we'll continue with our session on substation and lines. Before that, I would like to reply to Mr. Garg's question, if he can hear me now. Earlier he could not hear us, but if he can hear us now. He was talking about burdage on lines, and as regards burdage on lines, some of the utilities like DACS are using yellow paint and loose wire on the conductor or a knife-like thing on the insulators to prevent birds sitting on the lines and line structures and causing burdage. So I think, Mr. Garg, if you can hear me now, I hope your question has been answered. And then we'll move on now to the major equipment used in the lines. Earlier we had touched about the power transformer and the distribution transformer. So this session is going to go into detail about power transformers and distribution transformers. Basically, what is a transformer and what are the conductors being used in our power distribution system. Earlier we had gone into the equipment, major equipment being used. Now we'll go into the details of the equipment being used. So first we go into the details of the transformer. Will you put the presentation? Well, first we'll start with the transformer. The transformer is used both in the 33 by 11 kV and 66 by 11 kV substation and the distribution substation, which is 11 by 0.4 kV, or we also use 33 by 0.4 kV transformers for transformation of the voltages. A transformer is a device that transfers energy from one AC system to another. A transformer can accept energy at one voltage and deliver it at another voltage. This permits electrical energy to be generated at relatively low voltages and transmitted at high voltages and low currents, thus reducing line losses. As you are all aware, we generate at 6.6 or 11 kV, and if we were to transfer all the energy at 6.6 or 11 kV, then the amount of losses occurring in our system would be very huge. The generating stations are very far away from the consumer, and if we were to transfer all the energy that is generated on low voltage, then the amount of losses would be tremendous, and the energy received at the consumer end would be half of what we are getting now. So we use high voltage transmission system, and to make use of that high voltage, extra high voltage transmission system, we need to transform energy to higher voltages and then step it down to lower voltages at the back at the consumer level to 400 volts or 240 volts, what we get at the consumer end. So the transformer, first step-up transformer is existing at the generating substation. It steps up the voltage to the voltage of transmission. We have very high transmission voltages. We have 220 kV, we have 400 kV, and now we are having even 765 kV voltages. So the transformer steps up the voltages at the transmission substations, and then we transmit line over transmission lines. Then it comes to the sub-transmission level, where it is again stepped down to the sub-transmission level and further down to distribution level at the distribution substation. So transformer is that device which does this function, and the transformer consists of two or more stationary electrical circuits which are coupled magnetically. The windings are linked by a common time varying magnetic flux. You have all seen a transformer, and in the transformer we have the core and the windings, and we have the core, the HT winding and the LT winding. So the LT winding, one of the windings known as the primary, receives power at a given voltage and frequency from the source, and the other winding, which is known as the secondary, delivers power usually at a different voltage but at the same frequency to the load. So we have HT winding and LT winding. It may be a step-up transformer or it may be a step-down transformer. In distribution we have only step-down transformers, but in the transmission we first have step-up transformers and then step-down transformers. So this is the pictorial representation of a transformer which has a primary winding and a given number of turns of the primary winding, and a secondary winding which has another given number of turns. And as you all know, the voltage in the primary and secondary are proportional to the turns in the winding. So we have two types of transformers, which are the core type transformers and the shell type transformers. Core type transformers have cores with a hollow square through the center. The core is made up of many laminations of steel, and the shell type transformers are the most popular and efficient transformers, and they have a shell core. Each layer of the core consists of E and I shaped metallic sections which are butted together to form the laminations. The laminations are insulated from each other before being pressed together to form the core. The core material is generally of cold rolled grain oriented steel, what we call CRGO steel. Now the steel has a certain property of having certain losses, and we'll come to the losses in a transformer a bit later on, but first we'll discuss the construction. So you can see in the slide the shell type and the core type transformer. The core type transformer is on your left hand side, and you can see that we have a core in which on the limb we have the winding, and in the shell type transformer the core is outside and the winding is in the center on the central limb. This is for a single phase transformer. Similarly, we can have a three-phase transformer, and this will be the structure of a three-phase core type transformer and a shell type transformer. You can see the difference of the core type and shell type transformer. The laminations of these cores, the core or the magnetic material, are made of U sheet, E sheet, I sheet of 90 degree, I sheet of 45 degree, and the yoke sheets and leg sheets are attached as shown in the slide. So these laminations usually make up the core, and they are made of CRGO steel, or we now have a new material which is known as amorphous material. The amorphous material is also a type of steel, but it does not have crystalline structure, but the molecules in the amorphous material are randomly placed, and the losses in the amorphous core material are much less as compared to the CrGO steel. That is why in the distribution systems we are now using transformers made of amorphous core. So, based on the type of transformers, we have two types of transformers: the dry type distribution transformer and the oil insulated distribution transformer. In the dry type distribution transformer, the core and the coils are in a gaseous or dry compound insulating material. You must have heard of the tragedy in Upahar cinema, where lots of people were killed due to a fire in the transformer placed in the cinema. So after that, in Delhi we have been using dry type transformers wherever the transformers are inside buildings, are under stilts, or are in the basements, because the chance of fire in a dry type transformer is almost nil. The core and the coils of liquid immersed transformers are contained in an insulating liquid, and the most commonly used material for the insulation is the mineral oil. That is why they are usually called oil insulated transformers. The dry type transformers can be again of two major categories. One is the vacuum pressure impregnated transformer, and one is the cast resin type transformer. In the vacuum pressure impregnated transformer, the coils and all the clamping structure and buswork are assembled and then dried at atmospheric pressure in an oven through which hot air is continuously circulated. The totally assembled core and coil assembly are vacuum pressure impregnated in polyester varnish. So therefore, because the core is vacuum pressure impregnated in polyester varnish, it is called a VPI type, dry type transformer. The other type is the cast resin type of transformer. The VPI type, the dry type transformer is used for continuous operation. In the cast resin, we again have two types of transformers. One is the full cast and one is the unicast. So the major difference between the full cast and unicast is that in the full cast, each winding is completely encapsulated by a fiberglass epoxy resin used for, and this is used for non-continuous operations. The cast resin is accomplished by using a vacuum chamber to pull up the epoxy resin through the windings. So because the windings are in a vacuum, the epoxy resin rises through the windings and forms a solid material. In the unicast type of transformer, the primary and secondary cores are submerged in epoxy, and epoxy coating forms on the outside of the primary and secondary coils. The epoxy resin is not forced through the winding, so it is not as solid as the full cast transformer. The merits of using a dry type transformer versus oil filled transformers is that it's fire resistant, it is safe, it has lower losses than the same rating in oil, it is non-hygroscopic, there is very little chance of moisture going into the transformer, it is free from partial discharge, and it has high short circuit strength and good overload capacity, high impulse strength, it is environmental friendly, low cost of installation and maintenance, it is compact, 30% smaller than oil-filled transformers, and fast returns on investments due to energy savings and installation costs. However, the cost of the dry type transformer is higher than the cost of the oil-filled transformer, and most utilities have not been using dry type transformers. It is only lately that utilities have started using dry type transformers, and Delhi is one of the examples. Then the transformers are also classified on the basis of the type of cooling used. The dry type transformers use natural air cooling. They are rugged and simple in construction and are not plagued with the failures related with oil cooling. Oil-filled transformers are of two types. One type uses self-cooling and the other types uses forced cooling. Self-cooling oil-filled transformers have natural circulation of insulating oil within which the entire transformer is immersed. These are of moderate ratings and are suitable for outdoor duty as they require no housing other than their own and thereby save on cost. For higher ratings, either the smooth surface of the tank is corrugated or is provided with radiator pipes to get greater heat radiation area. You must have seen transformers and seen the corrugation on the tanks or the radiators which give greater heat radiation area. Large transformers require forced oil or water cooling. The cooling is circulated by a pump to radiate high quantity of heat generated in the transformer. And these are called forced cooling type of transformers. You can see a transformer here. So what the losses in a transformer? This is the most important part for a distribution transformer. The losses are of two types, the load losses and the no load losses. The load losses are proportional to the square of the load current. So these depend on the loading of the transformer. Load losses can be reduced by increasing the cross section of the windings and this reduces the current density and consequently the loss, although at a higher construction cost. Actually, load losses are the losses which we generally call as the I square R losses in the windings of the transformers. The windings in the transformers are mainly made of copper and of aluminium in the distribution transformers of lower ratings, and it is generally also called copper loss, even though the winding may be made of aluminium. But it is actually the loss in the winding, which is the I square R loss of the winding. The no load losses are the losses in the steel or the CRGO of the core, and these are important especially where the loading is much less. These losses depend on the material of the core, and that is, as I explained earlier, in a CRGO steel the core losses are much higher as compared to the core losses in an amorphous core material. In fact, in the amorphous material, the core losses are 1/4 of the losses in the CRGO steel. And the total losses are the load losses plus the no load losses. And these indicate the efficiency of the transformer. The efficiency of the transformer is calculated by 1 minus losses over input. And usually the efficiency of a transformer is very high, and a value of 90% is not uncommon for transformers as small as 1 kVA. And these efficiencies increase as the rating increases. For the power transformers, these are in the range of 99 and higher, and even for distribution transformers, these are in the range of 98.5 to 99.5%, depending on the rating and whether it is an oil-filled or a dry type transformer. The transformer size and kVA rating is decided on the basis of the following factors: existing load to be catered, the future load growth to be absorbed, and the diversity factor of load. As you all know, diversity factor is what is a diversity factor? Diversity factor is computed by dividing the sum of maximum demand of individual feeders and the total demand on the substation for the 33 by 11 kV substation, and for the distribution substation it is divided computed by dividing the sum of maximum demand of consumer categories, various consumer categories. So we need to consider the diversity factor while computing the rating of the transformer, the margin for future load growth, safety factor for avoiding loading. And usually we select a transformer and its rating such that the transformer is loaded up to 67 to 70%. It is not loaded more than that. It has been observed generally that our transformers are loaded more than 100% and they are failing because of the overload. But actually when we plan our system, then we should not load the transformer more than 70% to get optimum efficiency of the transformer as well as to prevent failure of the transformer. Now the transformers are used both in the 33 by 11 kV substation or the primary substation as well as the distribution substation. Then what is the difference between those two? So I am trying to bring out the difference between the power transformer and the distribution transformer. The power transformer is used at voltages above 33 kV and above, and the distribution transformer is used at 11 and as 11 by 0.4 or 33 by 0.4 kV transformer. It is fed through the power transformer is fed through a grid network and usually is not a critical component for supply to consumers, as alternative paths for flow of power are available from the grid. You can see that if one substation is not feeding, then maybe you can transfer the supply to the other substation and take supply from the other primary substation. But in case of a distribution transformer, it is very rarely that we have a ring main system, and once the distribution transformer is off, then we do not have supply to the consumers, and the distribution transformer is therefore very critical for supply to the consumers. Power transformers are generally loaded to levels just below the rated power, and accordingly they are designed to operate at maximum possible flux density level with maximum efficiency at near full load. Distribution transformers, especially in rural areas, are lightly loaded, and in order to have maximum all-day efficiency, they are designed to work at low flux levels and maximum efficiency occurring at low loading. Usually the average loading of a distribution transformer throughout the day, if we take it, is around 30 to 40%, though it may be having peak loading at some of the times. So these distribution transformers, especially the distribution transformers, are failing quite largely, and in our country we have distribution transformers failing with the distribution transformer failure rates around 20 to 25% for the country as a whole. Some of the utilities have brought them down to near 1%, especially the private utilities, but in most of the utilities the transformer failure rate is around 10 to 20%, and in some utilities it is 25 and even 35%. That means the distribution transformer is failing every 4th year, and we have to replace all the distribution transformers in 5 years. The distribution transformers should generally have a life of around 25 years. And look at what we are having. We are having our distribution transformers failing much before their design life. So we would like to discuss what are the causes of the failures of the distribution transformers. All the reasons for failure of distribution transformers can be classified under the following heads: aging, manufacturing defects, improper protection, improper structure and erection of the distribution transformer, improper operation and maintenance, and natural calamities. I think all the causes of failure can be clubbed under these heads, and we are going to discuss these individually. If you see the causes of failure of distribution transformers, then it has been observed that the damage to LV winding is 65%. In 65% of the cases there has been a damage to the LV windings, and the causes are compressed windings, open circuit insulation failure, dislodged spacers, and broken support and inadequate bolting of the transformer. The damage to HV coils has been found only in 5% of the cases, and this has been due to overloading, defective termination of coils, and inadequate size of fuses. Damage to both was found in about 10% of the cases, and it could be due to any of the above causes. And other reasons were found in 20% of the failures. These could be due to poor construction of transformer tank, defective joints, oil oozing out, punctured radiators and bushing gaskets, damage, tap changes, etc. So you can see that the maximum failure has been to the LV coils. So we have to take care of how to prevent this damage. First we'll go into the causes of the failure and then how to prevent that. So aging, the expected life of the transformer above 100 kVA is expected to be 35 years and up to 100 kVA, sorry, it is not years, it is 100 kVA, it is about 25 years. But most transformer failures occur much before. Earlier manufacturers incorporate, why has this been happening? Because earlier manufacturers incorporated many safety factors, but today the cost cutting approach exists. We try to meet the specifications with the lowest cost, because in our tendering process we tend to buy at the from the lowest tender, ignoring the quality aspect. Even if we do have the quality aspect, the manufacturers manufacture it such that it meets the specifications in the beginning, but whenever after 5 years there is the transformers fail because the safety factor has not been incorporated into the transformers. Everybody, the transformers now are being manufactured in the small scale also. So small scale industries which are manufacturing transformers meet the specifications, but they do a lot of cost cutting. For example, the distance between the coil, between the core coil and the tank has reduced, so that the cost comes down, but that allows it to meet the specifications in the beginning, but will cause a failure later on. So poor performances could be due to low oil level, draining of oil due to leakage and theft of oil.
Here one question comes to my mind.
Yes.
That if they are doing like that, then why not the specifications are made such that if they are doing all these things, even though that gaps and all these things are maintained, so we should why we should not have that specifications according to our requirement, so that they should be those gaps should remain to that
Actually,
minimum.
you know, when we specify when we make the specifications for the distribution transformers, we do not go into the details of what will be the tank construction, what will be the, you know, we don't go into the design aspects. We just say that they should meet this requirement. So unless we make this, as you rightly said, we make the specifications very stringent.
Construction details.
Construction details are also given. Then, you know, we go into, don't go in for lowest tender procurement. But we first have a technical bid and we evaluate the transformer on the technical part and then open the commercial bid. Two-part bidding is done. Then maybe, and we may, as you rightly said, make these specifications much more stringent and much more detailed.
Yeah, because these design details and construction details
because generally
should be taken care of, keeping in all these things, because this is a great loss if a thing which is designed for 25 to 35 years, if this is failing within a 1/5 of its designed life, then certainly it's a big loss.
It's a very big loss, especially in terms of outage as well as a loss in terms of equipment. We are having both types of losses. Once a distribution transformer is out of service, then the consumers face a lot of hardship, and the utility also faces a loss of revenue. So both types of losses are occurring to our system, and as you rightly said, we should make our specifications more stringent, and the utilities are making these specifications stringent, but people find ways and means to
yes, of course,
overcome these specifications also.
These are such type of problems.
Because you cannot go into every design detail.
Yeah.
So they try to cut corners and meet the barest minimum of these specifications. Earlier, you know, there were a lot of safety factors built into the transformer, but now they don't do that. And we are trying to standardize the specifications at the national level also. There are committees set up to standardize the specifications. Central Electricity Authority is also thinking of standardizing the specifications of distribution transformers to avoid this type of failure. Then the poor performance of the transformers could be due to low oil level, draining of oil due to leakage and theft of oil. You must have observed that people, you know, drain the oil from the distribution transformer, and this causes lot of failures. The people do not understand that, you know, drainage of this oil and theft of this oil is causing transformer failure, and they themselves are losing supply on account of this theft of oil. For them, they are selling it at a few rupees, but it causes a much greater damage to the utility. So we should be educating our people that the theft of this transformer oil is a very big damage to the nation and to the power utility. Then the transformer is also failing due to improper earthing, frequent faults on LT lines due to loose spans leading to short circuit, mechanical failure of the windings, improper tree clearance of LT lines. You know, usually the trees, they grow and the trimming of the trees is not done. So therefore the trees touch the LT lines and there is a fault on the LT line which causes the damage of the distribution transformer. Then defective breather and consequent ingress of moisture. You know, we do not see the silica gel and there is an ingress of moisture. Then there is a low electric strength of oil and winding insulation due to ingress of moisture, and there is a corrosion of core laminations. The poor performance of the distribution transformers could be any of these, due to any of these reasons. Then the manufacturing defects. We were discussing.
Yeah,
yes.
Of course, you can.
Does it mean that the
Mic, please, mic.
yes, the reasons for failure of transformers which you have enumerated in your slide, does it mean that there is less attention towards the maintenance of the transformers and the maintaining authority or the engineer who is there? Does he not pay attention whether the oil has been drained, if there is no proper oil on the transformer, or the lines inspection is not there, tree falling, etc. These are all the areas of negligence. This is number one.
Yes.
And I tend to agree with Dr. Bhardwaj that unless you make your specification perfect, and let us not blame the L1 system of ordering. If you specify what you want, then the minimum cost has to be seen, of course. Those who quote the minimum has to be ordered. And at least those areas where you think that if the proper specification is not there and you are likely to get lesser clearances between the winding and the body of the transformer, or the material, etc., must be specified perfectly, and there must be a method of testing these, so that you don't get on the quality aspect.
No compromise.
No compromise.
That's
I think these must be taken care of. And these operation and maintenance aspects, all these reasons which you are specifying are those which one has to take care. Even if those appliances which you have at home, if you don't do cleaning, if you don't do maintenance, if the housekeeping is not good, then there are likely failures, of course. So what do you
well,
say
as
to
you
that?
rightly said, we are not maintaining our transformers. We should maintain our transformers, and there is a preventive maintenance schedule which should be followed, which is, you know, daily, quarterly, what should be done. But generally, because the number of the distribution transformers is very high, and with the single phase distribution system, high voltage distribution system coming in, the number of transformers are increasing. We are not carrying out the maintenance which we should do. And like people stealing oil, then we need to top up our oil, but we don't go and see whether the oil level has come down, or whether, you know, there has been an ingress of moisture. We need to see our silica gel. So all these things which come under preventive maintenance are not being carried out adequately by the utilities. And we definitely need to improve upon our preventive maintenance programs.
So you must specify the preventive maintenance schedule which must be stuck to, and during the operation and maintenance manpower which we deploy, let us prescribe and assign that for so many number of transformers there would be one person to look after, and there must be some such specifications and directions or guidelines at least must be there, and let there be a proper direction to the distribution utilities in this direction. It must be in black and white. The guidelines must be issued by someone.
That is right. We need to issue these guidelines at the national level. Maybe the utilities have these guidelines, but these are not being followed vigorously. Or
But this is a loss to the utility. If the distribution utility does not pay attention for the transformer maintenance, then the loss is being occurred to them. It
yeah,
is a direct
definitely.
loss to them.
And you know, where private utilities have come in, they are paying a lot of attention to this aspect. and in BSES and NTPL, I think the loss distribution transformer failure rate has come down to less than 5%.
Okay. Then
Because, you know, it is not difficult to do this. It is just that we need to pay more attention, put more people, follow the schedules regularly. And as you rightly said, we should be very rigorous with our specifications.
Specifications must be very strong.
We need to specify, you know, very rigorously and with, you know, more details.
Yes.
Generally, we are specifying only that it should meet this criteria of losses. It should, we don't specify the design details, and we leave it to the manufacturer to design a transformer to meet those requirements.
One more aspect on the age of the transformer and the aging. If you design it for 35 years, can we not sponsor a research project for accelerated aging test on the transformer? Of course, you cannot keep it for 35 years and see whether it is failing or not. But through changing of the operational aspects of the voltage and current, can there be an accelerated testing of this, maybe switching on and off?
Yes, we could have that with the, we could have a research project with the Central Power Research Institute.
So accelerated aging testing should also be specified and done.
That is, but actually, you know, these distribution transformers are not being, all of them are not being tested for this accelerated aging test. So what happens is that the manufacturer usually sends a distribution transformer which will, you know, withstand whatever test you are doing, but when he actually supplies the transformers, he supplies transformers made of inferior material.
You buy, you choose one at random. Suppose you are buying some 2000 transformers. Now the numbers, distribution transformers, and the way you are specifying the less of LT, then the small transformers will be large in numbers. Out of that large number, one transformer can be chosen at random and tested and seen.
Yes, of course, there should be a provision that actually, what is the practice that we call for, generally we call for any item, not only for transformers, when we purchase computers and all these things, we call for samples initially, and then we test the samples only, and we don't bother about that what has been supplied. Whereas there should be some clause in the tender that any 10% of your supply will be tested
After receipt.
selecting randomly
And
after the
receipt.
supply. After the supply, within 6 months period or
Actually,
within some
that is
period.
now being specified in
So-
the specifications also, that we'll do random testing after it is received, especially for the losses, because the losses vary very much, and scrap steel is being used for the distribution transformers. And when we get those transformers, then the losses guaranteed by the manufacturer are not what is actually being supplied.
I think I would make a suggestion that even the random sample testing as well as a destructive testing should also be done.
Yeah.
To check on that transformer, because the losses which are incurring, I am sure that you will be able to afford one out of a large number
Yes, of
for
course.
destructive testing, whereby you can see the materials being used by him.
Yes, yes,
And there must be a severe penalty for
of course, this certainly this will help.
And especially the
In
lot should be
checking.
rejected, in fact.
Yes, of course. It must be.
Yes.
Yeah, we can take the call from Jabalpur. Please speak, Jabalpur.
Hello,
Yeah,
Yes.
I am Vivek Mathur from Jaipur Study Center.
ji boliye. Yes, please speak.
You have just told that one of the cause corrosion is the cause of transformer failure.
Yes.
How it can be corrosion?
The corrosion of the
in,
laminations. Corrosion of the laminations occurs, you know. Sometimes the corrosion of the lamination occurs and small particles of these go down into the oil. So that causes failure of the transformers. That goes into the windings and in the oil, which damages the insulation. Is it? Can you hear me?
No, the reason is that core is mainly lamination.
laminations.
Is emerged in the oil. How the corrosion occurs?
Because, you know, sometimes the insulation, there is an lamination, the laps, and you know, they are not properly made, so they rub against each other, and there is a you know, corrosion of the laminations. So that causes a failure of the insulation, and it goes into the oil, which causes a failure of the distribution transformer.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So now we will go on to manufacturing defects. These can result from improper, inadequate design, as I said earlier, poor quality of material used, bad workmanship, and poor short circuit withstand capacity. So manufacturing defects like of inadequate and poor design, which we discussed earlier, is transformer tank size. There is inadequate clearance for free circulation of oil. As I said, cost cutting is there. So there is inadequate clearance for free circulation of oil, which causes failures. And the percentage impedance should be large so as to increase their short circuit withstand capability. And this depends upon the size of wire used in the HV coil, radius distance between HV and LV coils. But usually, you know, the size is sometimes less and the radial distance is reduced, therefore the percentage impedance is reduced. Then there is improper use of aluminium wires, and therefore aluminium wires are recommended only for ratings up to 200 kVA. Then there is improper use of interlayer papers and use of inferior quality of wires for coils, poor quality oil and other insulation material. The insulation material is not good, the wires used for the coils are not good, and the oil used is not up to the mark. This also is a manufacturing defect, and if you use improper material, then your transformer is going to fail much faster than what it would have done with proper quality materials. Then improper workmanship is also one of the reasons. There may be improper alignment of HV windings. You don't align the HV windings properly. This requires actually skill, and usually the workers which are being used in the small scale industry for this manufacturing of transformers are not skilled to the extent they should be, and therefore there might be a slight misalignment in the HV windings. Improper clamping arrangement, which leads to vibrations and movement of the coils during short circuit conditions. It is not visible in the beginning, but whenever there is a short circuit, then there will be vibrations. Improper connections, the connections are not made properly of the connecting leads to the bushings, and there is an inadequate tightening of the core. All these will come under the head of improper workmanship while manufacturing the transformers. Then there may be an improper structure of the distribution transformer. While erecting the distribution transformer, the transformer is not erected properly. The IE rules 1956 specify the various clearances to be maintained when distribution transformers are to be erected. So the clearances for distribution transformers are: the transformer structure, HT bushing to ground should be 13 feet. The ABS switch, fixed contact to SG fuse should be 7 feet. The guy shackle to ground should be 10 feet. And if the length of the jumper is more than 5 inches, then LT-HT pin insulators are to be used to fix the jumper. So if there is an improper erection of the distribution transformer, it can also lead to failure. Then improper protection. You know, we generally distribution transformers run without protection. In our country, even power transformers are not being protected by circuit breakers, and in distribution transformers, we usually don't provide protection. So if the protection is not there, then we are likely to have distribution transformer failure. We use either overrated fuses or defective fuses. Generally what happens is that people remove the right size of fuse and replace it with a very strong wire or very thick wire so that it never fuses. Then whenever there is a consistent overloading and we don't provide LAs, lightning arresters, as I said earlier, are not provided on our distribution transformer as a regular practice. Some of the utilities have now started providing, and under APDRP program we are now insisting that every distribution transformer should be provided with an LA. But practice has been not to provide LA. So if these protections are not provided, then the failure of distribution transformers is likely to occur. Then we have natural calamities also affecting our distribution transformers. In the heavy lightning prone zones, if the lightning strikes, then and the LA fails to divert the lightning strikes, then the HV winding can fail, then the bushing can flash over, and there can be failure due to contact with birds and other animals. As earlier said by somebody, there can be birdage, and to avoid this, the HTLT bushing and HTLT jumper leads from the bushing should be covered with yellow tape insulation, what was discussed earlier also. So we'll come to transformer testing. We have covered all the causes of distribution transformer failure, and we'll come to how the maintenance schedules later on, how to prevent the distribution transformer failure. But before that, what are the tests to be carried out on a transformer? Transformer testing is done to ensure that transformers are built with adequate electrical strength to withstand over voltages and adequate mechanical strength to bear the mechanical stresses developed on the winding during short circuits. So the following tests are conducted before acceptance: testing of windings, testing of insulating transformer oil, and other tests. Testing of winding of distribution transformers. There are 4 tests which are generally conducted, which is the high voltage test, the induced voltage test, the short circuit test, and the ratio test. The high voltage test. We'll discuss the high voltage test first. This is done to check the dielectric strength of the insulation between the windings operating at different voltage, HV and LV, and between each of these windings, core and the earth part of the transformer. It is also called the major insulation test for the transformers. Then we have the induced voltage test. This is conducted to test the dielectric strength of the inter-turn, inter-layer, inter-disc, and interphase insulation. This test is also called the minor insulation test. First one was the major insulation test, and this is called the minor insulation test. Then we have the short circuit test. This is conducted for testing the mechanical strength of the transformer in terms of its impedance parameters. Then we have the ratio test. This test can be carried out for testing the transformer ratio. This ratio is measured with a high accuracy portable digital turns ratio tester only after ensuring shutdowns and complete isolation of the transformer from the system.
Now let's have a small break.
Okay.
We will meet after 10 minutes at 7. So I should say thank you for patient listening and interaction during the sessions. I would like to request the learners to interact more and more with the expert if they have any question in their mind. So thank you. We will meet at 7.
Thank you.
Okay.